Morning, it's Joe Waxman. I'm back with another mini reading. And this morning I want to read the chart of John D. Rockefeller, the famous oil magnate who later moved into medicine and was basically the father of modern Western allopathic medicine. Whether you love it or hate it, he basically created it out of his destroyed oil empire. Check out my website, macroastrology.com, to book a reading. Sorry, there's a fly buzzing around. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. I'll share my screen here. All right, John D. Rockefeller, July 8th, 1839 at 11:55 p.m. It's almost midnight, just about midnight. Richford, New York. Okay. So Sun in Cancer, right conjunct the IC. So this is this is midnight. This is the midnight sun. And what's the significance of this? Well, this deals with the home, especially in Cancer. The home, the roots, early childhood life, house, land, real estate, gathering. It's the deepest part of the chart. It's where all the energy gathers. It represents the past and just this sense of gathering, collecting energy, right? And Sun here, Sun is the significator of his soul, the center of all the planets revolve around the sun, including the Earth. It's the soul significator. It's where all the planets answer to. It's the final. It has the final say in everything. It's the ultimate gravity of the chart, the ultimate mass. So you might wonder how the richest man in the world at the time would have such a sun at the bottom of the chart in Cancer, very emotional, right? Not maybe you wouldn't think about it, but think about it another way. Fourth house, or especially the IC, is where we can gather massive amounts of physical assets, like a really big house. Like if we wanted to build a castle, we would look at here at the fourth house. If we wanted to build many castles, hotels, hotel empire, or empires in general, we would look to the IC, because it's about amassing, gathering real estate and land and assets and material things, not material wealth like the second house, but like building an empire. So he's very much into this, the whole thing of like really gathering. And there are other themes that reinforce that, which we'll get to. But his sun is disposited by the moon. Moon rules Cancer, and it's right here nearby. It's not a bright moon. So he has a character. He's not going to be very prominent. He's not going to be famous on the world stage, right? He's not like this guy who's going to stand up in front of everyone and lead people in that way. But he's going to build things. He's about building and creating from underground, from the bottom, from foundations. This is the foundation. He's all about foundations, right? So his moon is in the third house of short distance travel. There's a lot of associated courage, expression, speaking, writing, skills of the hands. But really the signification for him is his ability to have to enable to support the real estate, to support the empire building from the behind, with short distance travel, with dealing. This is a great house for business, third house, because it's the house of media and communication. So he was very good at you know, communicating and networking and establishing short distance travel deals. That means not, you know, the railroad, right? Shipping the oil. He got into oil, right? That's seen here with MC in Capricorn, Saturn in the 8th house. This deals with oil. 8th house deals with hidden underground things. And Saturn has a very, you know, strong connection to one of the significations of Saturn is oil, right? And lost my train of thought. Deposited by Jupiter in the 6th house, which I'll get to later. Saturn is a significator of career anyway. So there's a very strong indicator of what he's going to be doing. 8th house, Saturn. That's deep underground oil stuff. It could be other things, but in this case, it relates to oil. So we know that he's very much about this, you know, at home, working at home, homeland, building and gathering empire and creating, you know, business deals with, you know, railroad, short distance travel, communicating, neighbors, right? His ascendant is Aries, so he's a go-getter. He's self-motivated, selfish. You know, he likes to start things, initiate things. Aries is the first sign. It's number one. It really doesn't consider others. It's one of its, and the lower spectrum of Aries is that it's just very selfish and self-motivated, and it doesn't even really notice other people. The higher potential is great leadership, great inspiration. You know, they either way they have tremendous ability to start things. Cardinal fire. They can start fires. They're really the, you know, the first cardinal sign. So they just have the most ability to initiate and start new things. Aries are starters. They're fire starters. You know, that song by The Prodigy, I think it was, in the 80s, Firestarter. I'm not going to mimic it, but that's about Aries, basically. So he's a fire starter. His Mars is in the 6th house of litigation and conflict and health and disease. So we know that he was into oil and he built an empire, right? And what about his money? That's ruled by Venus. See, Venus here is debilitated in Virgo at 0 degrees. So like, oh, he probably shouldn't have made any money. Well, he made tons of money, but how did he make money? He had no integrity about it. He had no honesty about it, right? That's what a debilitated planet can do. It lowers the quality. And Venus rules the 7th house too. So he was just, 7th house deals with partnerships, like wife. I don't know about his wife at all, anything. Like I looked up his Wikipedia. It's like very flattering. He was a philanthropist and all that. We know he was a Nazi, by the way, just saying. He was not a savory character at all. But his wife could have been a lower, you know, lower quality, like somebody who was just like, you know, not a nice person, not a good person, because it's ruled by Venus in the 5th house, debilitated, in Virgo, it's 0 degrees. 0 degrees shows it's a planet that has no boundaries, no limitations, because it has no experience in the sign. So it's just like wide open, like sky's the limit. So right, it's ruling his finances. So huge money making, but without any moral integrity because it's debilitated. And he picks a wife who has no morals either, right? And it's squared by Saturn, further harming it. Saturn to Venus is, I mean, Saturn benefits from Venus, obviously. So this is a money-making thing for oil. Even though it's a square, the context here is like, you know, I'm going to make money at any cost. I'm going to hurt, you know, it doesn't matter who I hurt, who suffers. I'm going to make a lot of money, right? But Venus suffers from Saturn. Venus is, the romance is delayed, debilitated, fun. He was not a fun guy. He was not a very happy guy because 5th house is the house of fun and romance and play and creativity and children. His children suffered because of this. he just wasn't having fun. He was not having a fun time. Virgo is not the sign of fun anyway. Virgo likes to work hard and manage and be surgically critical of things, you know. So like incredible, like I gotta say, like with the good thing about Venus in Virgo is the critical eye for you know, knowing what's going to work and what's not going to work relating to Venusian things, you know, like if it's like an art critic or music critic or whatever kind of critic. It's fantastic, super critical, right? But low moral integrity here, right? By the way, his moon was way out of bounds, most out of bounds I've ever seen. 28 degrees, 18 minutes, 53. That's about as out of bounds as it can get. None of the planets are stationary, but what this out of bounds moon means is that his emotional swings were way, 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 way wide, and that it was in Gemini. Gemini moons are kind of crazy to begin with, so he was crazy. He was a crazy guy. Like he's just having these wild, you know, mood swings and just, you know, third house deals with the intellect, so very active mind. Gemini moon, it's like idea man, huge idea man, but just like way out of bounds. Like he could start new things with that Aries ascendant, Pluto and Aries behind the scenes. Crazy ideas all over the place, very unique and original ideas, not conforming to anything, just like going way out of bounds, being a way, you know, paving the road, not following the beaten path because of the out of bounds moon. Just to thinking way out of the box, and it rules his sun too. So just, you know, no limitations really, and no moral limitations either. With Venus in Virgo, Mars is weak. Mars rules his ascendant lord. It's in Libra. Not strong in the sixth house. Mars in the sixth house is good. It's a scrappy fighter, but it's a weak Mars because it's in Libra. So again, morals are low with his ascendant lord. And this again reinforces this idea that he didn't really care about people. He did not really care about helping people or hurting people. If it benefited him, he was, you know, he wanted to hurt people because he could benefit from it. It wasn't like, you know, he was morally obliged to help people. No, not at all. And that's why he could be so successful, right? What else? So after he became the richest man in the world with, you know, controlling all the oil, basically all the oil, with Saturn in the 8th in Sagittarius, aspected by Venus, which rules his money house and his partnerships house. He could make business deals, but he was not scrupulous. He was not moral about it, right? Because Venus rules the 7th house. 7th house deals with business deals as well. So business partnerships. If he ever made a business partnership with it, he did not have any morals. This is ruling his business partnerships and his wealth creation, right? But then what happened? 8th Lord Jupiter, where his career is in oil, goes into the 6th house. What's the 6th house? Conflict. Libra is the sign of one of the signs, one of the indicators of law, but so is Jupiter and Sagittarius. And Mars here is a fighter, but Jupiter is the significator of his career moving from the 8th house into the 6th house. So conflict. So what happened? This is actually a beneficial placement, because even though he went to court and the government broke up his oil empire, he became wealthier afterwards, because I don't know what percentage of shares he owned of the individual oil, you know, companies, but the whole thing grew in value. And it's because of this Vedic astrology. It's called the yoga. I think it's for Raj yoga. Anyway, 8th Lord in 6th house, that there's going to be conflict, but it benefits him. And then 6th house also deals with health and disease. So what does that show? I mean, that's so obvious, like, right? his career goes from oil to health and sickness. And that's exactly what happened. He moved into, he benefited from it. He gained a lot of wealth and, became the richest man in the world to the even richer richest man in the world. And here, again, morale is low with the Mars in Libra. Jupiter is okay in Libra, but in the sixth house, what it's really saying is like, yeah, he moved into medicine, right? And we could see as he got older, he's moving into his north node as opposed to his south node. His south node in Virgo just strengthens this, fourth house building. His Mercury's here, his communication. That's just, it's just reinforcing the empire building, right? When he was younger. Then as he gets older, after 42, he's much more interested in a much bigger view, because North Node conjunct Uranus is a really interesting position. I have it by a much wider degree. Mine's like 11 and 3 degrees, so 8 degrees. But there's 1 degree difference. And a lot of what's amazing is that a lot of world leaders, politicians, people who take world stage or take the interest in the world, you see them with North Node conjunct Uranus, like Donald Trump, like Ram Dass, like Bill Clinton, like Barack Obama, like I can't remember. There's so many world leaders, like I think maybe even Gorbachev. Anyway, a lot of them. Because Uranus makes them think about the world. That's the nature of Uranus. It's like total awareness. Like you cannot be in your own little bubble and have a strong Uranus. If you have a strong Uranus, North Node, Uranus ascendant, like I do, Sun Uranus, or even Moon Uranus, you're going to be thinking, or strong Aquarius placements as well. You're going to be thinking about the whole world, because that's what it makes you do. It makes you think very big and very aware. And like, it's like just total awareness. So he was thinking about the world, not necessarily good or bad. And in Pisces, Pisces is great for creativity, but it's also the sign of illusion and delusion. So he was heading towards fooling the world, really. That's where it's, and it's on the 11th house cusp. So 11th house, again, is very world thinking. I mean, he's coming to the 12th house cusp, the house of really just complete secrecy, and that's Neptune's house, or Pisces' original house in the natural zodiac. So this is very, think about the world, but in a very deceptive way. And there's not only that, Neptune is in the 10th house in Aquarius. So that's a similar energy to this, right? They're actually switching places, because Neptune is the co-ruler of Pisces. Uranus is co-ruler of Aquarius. So same energy here. This would be great for an artist. Any type of arts or film or anything where the person is into creativity or spirituality as a career, as a public image. It's not great for a politician. And if you see this in a politician or a world leader or somebody in business, what it means is that they can fool the world. They can fool the public. They can fool the masses. They can fool the people with their public image. And you know who has this? Joe Biden. Enough said. I mean, if you know, you know, right? They're foolers. They're deceivers, right? Every planet placement is good or bad depending on how you use it. Like I said, great for artists, great for actors, great for spiritual people, great for mystics, right? Not good for somebody who's in business, because they are there to deceive people. He was deceptive, right? He, he made his fortune in oil, and then he went into medicine, and modern Western allopathic medicine, not designed to help people. That we see here, he was fooling people. There was, if you do your research like I did, before Rockefeller came along, there was a very solid foundation in natural medicine that actually worked. But there wasn't a lot of money to be made, right? He's immoral about money and business dealings and how he's perceived in the public. And he totally changed that. Like with his fortune, he made medicine from petroleum, you know, in the pills, and he charged money for it. And a lot of times what they do is they'll take a plant that has beneficial qualities, which you can buy really cheaply, anyone can anywhere, and then they'll extract, you know, whatever part or parts are the most potent, put it into a pill, charge a fortune for it. And oftentimes it's less effective than the original, you know, herb or plant or mineral, right? Just in its natural form. So that he was the founder of that. And, you know, we can see all that here and everywhere. This is the house of health and healing. So also, Pluto is in the 12th house, and Pluto in the 12th house is good and bad. Pluto in the 12th house, I mean, it's coming, it's not like super deep in the 12th house. It's in the same sign as his ascendant, and it's getting pretty close. So that made him a powerful person. It was affecting his ascendant, but it's still having 12th house influence as well. And the 12th house influence of Pluto is a deep destructive quality that you have to take conscious control of. You have to, with Pluto in the 12th house, and I do have Pluto in the 12th house, you have to consciously evolve yourself with spirituality. Otherwise, you become destructive. You become a destructive person. And a lot of criminals have Pluto in the 12th house for that reason. Because for whatever reason, psychologically, they would not take responsibility for their own spiritual evolution. So they become destructive and they attract destruction onto themselves. Both. The destruction has to come out. I would say this. The destruction comes one way or the other. And if a person does not have enough moral fiber within their being, they become the criminal. If they are essentially what amounts to, you could say, like a good person, meaning that they don't want to hurt other people, they have the morale intact, but they're at the same time they're not fulfilling their spiritual obligations that Pluto wants. They're not satisfying their Pluto. Then they'll attract crisis onto their life, and they'll be the victim. His moral fiber was lacking, right? We see the debilitated Venus, the Mars in detriment, the way out of bounds moon in Gemini, crazy Gemini, you know, the Venus square Saturn, sorry. The deception, right? So the destruction came out from him. He became a destructive force. Okay, it's also looking at his 6th house, adding to this somewhat of a stellium. I mean, these are minor asteroids, but they play a part. This gives intellectual skills and wisdom. It's Pallas Athena. Really good with Mercury, but probably makes Mars quite clever, and Jupiter. This deals with, Ceres deals with food. So I'm not sure how that relates. It must relate to, you know, the 6th house of medicine in general. Ruled by, you know, all disposited by the 6th house. The 6th house ruler is Mercury, but these planets are disposited by Venus, debilitated Venus. So further weakening this whole 6th house, right? Making it very immoral. Not lacking moral fiber, you could say. So his wanting to heal other people with modern allopathic medicine with the pills that were very expensive. You know, this destructive, it's relating to Pluto here, very destructive, not at all helpful, healthy. But empire building he was able to do by, you know, really turning to the dark side, by not having that moral strength. Now, if he just had at some point decided to be a good person, his life would have been much different. He would have suffered a lot of the negative karma that's associated with his chart, and he could have been a victim of abuse and attack and all sorts of things with Pluto here. You know, tons of conflict, not a lot of money. But the way karma works is like, if you decide to go down the dark path, it's like an inversion. The good becomes the bad, and the bad becomes the good, right? The bad, this is like, for a bad person, this is like an exalted Venus ruling his second house and seventh house and sixth house dispositor. Right? Everything's inverted. And Mars and Libra become strong too, because Mars rules Aries. So, you know, there's something to that, that if you can make use of a debilitated planet in a positive way, it means that you are lacking moral fiber. Otherwise, you're gonna suffer the weakness of this planet rather than the strength. Anyway, guys, just to throw in another factor here, I also study nine star key, as it's sometimes called, feng shui astrology, Japanese astrology. It was the original astrology that I learned. I mean, the original archetype, it's not considered an astrology. The original archetype I learned was yin and yang, you know, polar opposites. But then later I learned 9 key. And just to throw this in here, he was an 867. So that's what it deals with numbers. That's why it's 9 key. And number 8 is about gathering. It's very self-motivated and ambitious. It's the mountain. So it's about gathering. And 8s gather knowledge or material assets or power or wealth, their business. And so that really also sums up his you know, his life. And the 7 tendency is very geared towards money and wealth creation. And the 6 is intuitive, but leadership oriented. So, I mean, just in general, you know, they work together. I never found a conflict with these. They support one another. Just real quickly, what the book says is intuitive, stylish, idealistic, passionate, self-motivated, willful, hypersensitive, and inflexible. But yeah, just to add another interesting thing to the mix. And by the way, Sun in the 4th house, especially when it's conjunct the IC or MC, it becomes more powerful because the angles. You know, any planet that's on the angles becomes very powerful. And if we look at the polarity point, or its, you know, shadow projection, that's right at the MC in Capricorn. You know, there's an influence there. It's projecting its shadow, its projection onto the 10th house. So also giving a boost to his career, even though the essence is down here in the gathering and empire building, right? So let's see. That's about it. You know, it's really interesting to look at different charts, and you see, like, you know, people like Bach and Ram Dass, they have like exalted planets, right? Really high power, and they were like beautiful spiritual people. And then somebody like John D. Rockefeller, you know, he's got this debilitated Venus, which so much depends upon, and you know, it's got a bad aspect from Saturn, you know, making it weak and worse, and you know, we're having to work harder. So not a happy guy. But powerful guy, nonetheless. All right, guys, that's pretty much it. My mini reading for Johnny Rockefeller. If you like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, share. Go to my website, macroastrology.com, if you want to book a reading. And I will see you soon. All right.